From the offbeat, to the macabre, to the downright bizarre, the world is full of fascinating places to go and things you just have to see to believe. Like a temple in India where rats are revered. Everything's bigger and better in Texas, even the sand castles at this seaside extravaganza. And a town in northern England where beauty is truly in the eye of the beholder. From a short-staffed restaurant in the Philippines to a festival that will have you seeing double, let's travel the world in search of things you have to see to believe. Throughout the ages, beauty has been revered the world over. From city streets to fashion runways to glossy magazines, it's all around us. But in the bucolic hills and dales of northern England, home to grazing horses and sheep, the townspeople prize something a bit different. So supermodels stay away, because in the quaint town of Egremont, prettiness isn't prized. Ugliness is. No, they aren't afflicted with mad cow disease. Egremont is home to the World Gurning Championships.
Gurning is twisting your face from the natural to the unnatural.
Or, more simply, gurning is making the most horrible facial expression imaginable. And it goes back centuries to 1261, when King John gave Egremont a charter to hold a village fair. At the end of the fair, drunken farmers threw a horse collar over the village idiot and got him to make silly faces.
And this is how gurning started and developed through the years, till what it is now.
And what it is now is a fast-growing competition with high stakes. This year, a lucrative beer contract is up for grabs for the ugliest mug. Two of the top contenders for the crown are Anne and Alec Woods. Alec has only been gurning for 3 years, but his wife Anne has been going at it for almost a quarter of a century with an unprecedented 24 wins.
Not that I'm confident, just that it didn't bother me whether I win or I lose.
Alec hasn't won yet, but he's hoping his unique facial features, a toothless grin and a nose broken in a barroom brawl, will give him the edge this year. So when the big night comes, Anne and Alec arrive at the competition full of hope and confidence. But for newcomers like Alf Yee, it's a nerve-wracking experience.
This is my first night, first time. I've only been practicing doing it for 2 weeks.
And the man to beat tonight is 3-time champ Peter Jackman, who takes winning so seriously he had all his teeth pulled out to gurn better.
And I realised my gurn, as I won 3 times, is better.
Finally, the time has come for the competition to begin, and the contenders file nervously backstage. First up are the kids, future uglies in the making. Next, the women's competition. Tightly wound contenders make their way towards the stage, each silently praying to be chosen as the ugliest of them all. Head judge Bondi Poe could give them a few pointers.
We're looking for a lot of energy and personality coming through the gurning. We're looking for ugliness, obviously, and sustaining the face. That's very important, that they've got to be able to hold it for quite a few seconds, really, enough for us to be able to look and see.
Holding it isn't such an easy task.
It hurts after a while, because of the way they're pulling hard and pulling on the jaws and things. It does hurt after a while.
Well, no one said being ugly was easy. It's a tough match, but a runner-up is eventually selected. And the winner is Anne Woods. Overcome with emotion, and grabs her 25th title as the audience goes wild. But she has little time to savor her victory on stage because the men's competition now gets underway. While the hands-on favorite is Peter Jackman, he's up against some pretty stiff competition tonight, and tension backstage is so thick you could cut it with a knife. After much deliberation, 3 finalists are chosen and brought back on stage.
It's so close, all of them, the last 3, it's very difficult to differentiate. And also this year they were pulling very similar kind of faces, so that makes it very difficult.
But a winner is finally selected and the audience erupts in a frenzy. Local boy Peter Jackman is crowned World Gurning Champion for the 4th time.
But I was ready for it tonight. I was hungry. I was hungry for it, and I'm glad I've won it.
Peter just had the edge this year because of the energy, I think. That really came through. He sustained it well.
It's absolutely fantastic. I've won it 3 times. I got beat last year. To win it back again, it just feels so good. So good. But I knew Bella, that's my face. I knew Bella would do it.
Even while the gummy gurner gives an encore and signs autographs, he's already plotting for his next competition.
I'm going to introduce my new face. That's it's going to be good. But I'm going to introduce it slowly and slowly.
Meanwhile, Anne and Alec gather their things and head home to contemplate their wins and losses and perhaps dream of the day when gurning becomes an Olympic sport. From a competition where people try to look their ugliest, we travel to a festival where people can't help looking alike. People come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. That uniqueness is something we all take for granted. But there is a group of people that gather every year to remind each other that there are many people that look alike, exactly alike.
Welcome to the Twins Convention 2001.
It's here at the International Twins Association's 64th Annual Convention in Grand Rapids, Michigan, that has many area residents seeing double. Since 1946, hundreds of twins from around the world have been meeting at a different city every Labor Day weekend to celebrate everything twins. There's young twins, old twins, blonde twins, bald twins.
When you're at a twins convention, it's your world. It's the twin world, our world.
There's no 2 ways about it. Here at the Twin Convention's headquarters, twins are having twice the fun as they gather with over 300 people just like themselves. The highlight of the convention each year is the contest held to determine which twins look most alike. The little twins start things up, if they could only get them lined up. And winners are awarded. What else? Matching medals. The contest continues on with the twins of different age groups winning the coveted honor. While the competition is tough among the contestants, there is one thing they can all agree is the best thing about being a twin.
You've had a best friend since the day you were born.
It's like having your best friend with you at all times.
She's my very best friend.
The weekend is filled with food, dancing, and laughs as the twins celebrate their carbon copy siblings. To see everything virtually doubled right before your eyes is quite an unbelievable sight. And there is one thing this unique gathering definitely proves.
It's great to be a twin.
Coming up next on Things You Have to See to Believe. Pestilent pests are praised at a temple in India. Later, bigger isn't better at the Hobbit house in the Philippines, home to the world's smallest waders. Plus, a masochistic marathon in Britain where real men wear pink. We're back with more Things You Have to See to Believe. It's one of the most famous images of life in India, cattle freely roaming the city streets. In Hindu culture, these animals are sacred, so they're free to wander without fear of the butcher. After all, Hinduism teaches that you could be reincarnated as a cow. or a camel? Or a rat? Well, if your karma's pointing you toward a future as one of our rodent friends, let's hope you end up here, a building in India known as the Rat Temple. For rats, it's heaven on earth. The Rat Temple is located in northwest India, an arid desert region that for centuries was ruled by a dynasty of powerful Maharajas. Their legacy can be seen in striking and historic buildings throughout the area. Buildings like the 16th century Junagadh Fort or the Lalgarh Palace, and the final resting places of the Maharajas, these elaborately decorated cenotaphs, all found in the city of Bikaner. But for a more curious reminder of the Maharaja legacy, go to the nearby village of Deshnok to visit the Karni Mata Temple, better known as the Rat Temple. This is something you gotta see to believe. Built in the early 20th century, the temple boasts elaborate marble carvings on the exterior, reliefs depicting various Hindu gods, and inside, thousands of four-legged residents. You may wonder why so many rodents are allowed to run rampant throughout the temple. After all, these pestilent pests carry diseases like the bubonic plague, so nasty it killed off 1/4 of Europe's population in the 14th century. As recently as the 50s, this disease killed thousands in India every year. And not surprisingly, in most places, rats are looked upon as pests to be eradicated, but not here at the Karni Mata Temple. Here, they're known as Kaaba, and they're one of the reasons that the devout and the merely curious come to the temple in the first place. One thing to make clear, nobody here is worshiping the rats themselves. The temple is actually devoted to its namesake, the local deity Karni Mata, patron goddess of the Maharaja dynasty that ruled the region. There are different stories explaining the reason that the rats have come to be considered sacred. The most prevalent holds that they're the reincarnation of Karni Mata's descendants, and therefore must be treated with reverence. Whatever the reason, these sacred rats are well taken care of, to say the least. Workers from the temple prepare special food for them that also serves as an offering to Karni Mata. It's a mixture of flour, milk, and sugar with dried fruits called halwa. Above the temple courtyards, there's netting and mesh to keep away any birds of prey that might look on the rats more as dinners than diners. And carved in the marble flooring are plenty of rat holes, leading to passages underneath the temple. It's believed that only a small portion of the rats living in the temple are actually visible at any given time. Because the rats are sacred, touching them, then touching the forehead, is considered a sign of supreme respect. But even among these sacred rodents, some rats are more equal than others. Visitors to the temple are on constant watch for the most special of all these special rats, the white Kaaba. Glance at him, and according to tradition, your wish will come true. And for the most devout, prayer ceremonies are held twice a day at the Sanctum Hall, the most sacred place in the temple. Only the priest and his assistants are allowed inside. Everyone else gathers around as bells are rung and songs are sung in praise of Karni Mata. In addition to the faithful, the temple also draws its fair share of foreign tourists. People who, well, had to see it to believe it. Sightseers are often a bit uncomfortable, especially because, as with all Hindu temples, visitors are required to remove their shoes. But he'd better step carefully. If a person steps on Kaaba, he has to purify his soul. He has to make a silver or gold replica of a Kaaba and offer it to the deity. Not surprisingly, the temple has occasionally come under the scrutiny of the secular world, in particular public health officials. A 1994 outbreak of the plague in another Indian city brought some unpleasant publicity here, but it faded quickly. As the priest argues, disease is simply not a problem here. Followers of Karni Mata simply believe that their rats, unlike all the others, don't carry the plague. The Kaabas are different from regular rats. When a rat dies in your house, it makes a bad smell, but that is not the case here. When there was a plague in the country, people did not hesitate to drink the water in the bowls, where Kaabas also drank. Today, the faithful gather at Karni Mata as they have for decades. They come for prayer, to make wishes, or to give thanks for wishes granted. It's an unusual manifestation of the Hindu teaching of respect and reverence for all living creatures, even the lowliest of the low, here at the Rat Temple of Karni Mata. Coming up next on Things You Have to See to Believe. Take 1 part sand, 1 part water, and add tons of imagination, and you've got the makings for an unbelievable seaside festival. But first, tough men tangle, trudge, and trample their way through a masochistic marathon in merry old England. When Things You Have to See to Believe returns. We're back with more Things You Have to See to Believe. The air is biting, the mud is numbing, the water is freezing, and the men and women are masochists. Welcome to England's Tough Man competition, where thousands of people from all over Europe come to test their mettle. And hopefully not kill themselves in the process. These hardy rogues have come to be tortured in a grueling military-style obstacle course that takes place yearly on 150 pastoral acres in Staffordshire, northern England, in the fiendishly cold month of January.
God, Jesus, you know, look at the weather. Do you know what it was like last week? Thick with snow all around here, sleet and rain. You know what it'll be like next week? Same again. God has separated the ways for this.
God may be in charge of the weather, but the person taking a devilish delight in the proceedings is ex-military man Billy Wilson, who created the Tough Man competition in 1986.
I realised that people were missing something, and I knew what it was. It was this assault course that we all go through that turns you into a man, you know, so I built it up slowly and gradually to give the civvies of today a little taste of what the real men went through.
Top of the morning to you, sir.
Over 5,000 wannabe mercenaries vie for the title of toughest man in Britain. Some, like Lutz Thassler, from as far away as Germany. Some people sit in front of computers. The others do crazy stuff. Life is boring and stressed enough. You need to have something crazy like this to do to make it interesting and worthwhile. Lutz's quest for stimulation begins the day before, when he surveys the obstacle course. It may look tranquil now, but just wait. The hardest part for me will be after 4 hours in the cold to keep moving. After 2 to 3 hours, you feel it in your bones already. You start to feel unsure that you'll come through. The next day, at 11 a.m., he gets numbered, and after a bracing shot of rum to warm up, he waits in line with thousands of other lunatics as they prepare to launch themselves into 4 hours of hell on earth. But it's still early, and everyone's itching to get moving. Organizers try to hold the manic throng back, but it's no use. So let the games begin. Thousands strong, they break loose and, screaming as they go, attack the first part of the competition. A 9-mile race up and down hills. A mere warm-up before the real fun begins. After struggling through the hellish A-frame, Lutz grabs a bit of medicinal pick-me-up and continues on. Next up, the treacherous Berlin Wall. Followed by the eerie Battle of the Somme with reenacted smoke, trenches, and barbed wire.
There are some really hard runs, but in its extreme form, English humor is also present here.
If you have a twisted sense of humor, that is. Next up, the terrifying Saigon tunnels.
One guy got stuck on here. They fenced the medics down. I said, leave him there.
But the toughest test is yet to come. The torturous water trap. Frozen with ice, contenders have to cross under a 16-foot expanse of wood with only one space in the middle to gulp in some freezing air. Then a last push to the other side. The water is so cold that hypothermia is claiming victims by the minute. Luckily, there are safety measures in place. Men in scuba gear wait underwater for bodies to drop down, and they pull them back up. With obstacle courses with names like the Saigon Tunnels, the Battle of the Somme, and the Berlin Wall, it's no wonder the event has been nicknamed the Killing Fields. And appropriate, since no matter what shape you're in when you start, you end up dead on your feet. Besides hypothermia, contenders through the years have often suffered broken legs, cramping, a million scratches and bruises, and one year, someone even suffered a heart attack. Nevertheless, according to Billy, the event is as safe as can be.
It's the safest, wildest adventure course in the world. It's like going to Paris Disneyland.
Well, maybe not Disneyland. But for those rugged men and women hungering for adventure, the Tough Man competition is heaven on earth.
That is what the thrill is. You're achieving something they couldn't achieve in normal life.
Tired, dirty, and cold, the lucky ones struggle to the finish line. Ecstatic simply to have survived a grueling marathon you really have to see to believe. Coming up when Things You Have to See to Believe returns. London, England is home to a World Championship spitting competition. But wait until you see what they're spitting. If you think building sandcastles is kid stuff, think again. Or better yet, check out the annual sandcastle competition in Galveston, Texas. We're back with more Things You Have to See to Believe. There's something about sand that makes you want to play. Shovels and buckets lead to moats and turrets. Before you know it, you've got a castle. But once a year on the east beach of Galveston, Texas, the big kids move in with bigger shovels, bigger tools, and the biggest ideas imaginable. Every June, Texas turns the castle building over to the professionals when the Houston chapter of the American Institute of Architects digs in for one of the most spectacular sandcastle competitions in the world.
How many people can I count on to be there when it starts?
The contest is no simple day at the beach. For competitors like the Houston firm of Watkins Hamilton Ross, months of planning has brought them to this, a final strategy meeting.
Curious George, just as research. I've been doing my research.
Here's the catch. You only have 5 hours to do it, and the sculpture can only be made with sand and water.
Let's go!
The night before, dump trucks unload piles of sand for each team in booths that span across a half-mile of beach. 80 teams will compete, all vying for the top prize, the coveted Golden Bucket Award. As dawn breaks, the teams, some more than 60 strong, prepare to square off against their competitors.
Okay, the 15th Annual 2001 American Institute of Architects Houston Sandcastle begins!
10 a.m. and the teams get cracking. Event chairman Derek Moore says the other rules are pretty simple.
You use sand, you use water, and you can use anything to carve with and anything to form with, but at the end of the day, there's nothing else but sand left.
The first step is to construct large blocks of sand that can be carved. Pumps provide a steady stream of water from the Gulf, and workers pound the wet sand into pre-made forms.
That's one of the hardest parts is how we pack it, as far as whether you pack it down or sweat it down or all that, keeping it from collapsing. That's one of the hardest parts.
The high-tech sculptors rely on mechanical tampers to pound the sand, but others don't mess with machines and do everything by hand. Organizers of the event say there's also something special that sets the Galveston competition apart from others: the secret's in the sand.
And that's because it has silt in it, it makes it real sticky, and you can actually create a full round ball shape and it won't fall apart because it's so sticky.
Sticky sand helps teams wow the judges and fans with all sorts of granular skyscrapers. Galveston Island has been wowing tourists for decades. A popular playground for residents of nearby cities like Houston, it's also a welcome retreat for visitors from far beyond the Texas border. This island's colorful past includes pirates and conquistadors to more recent killer storms.
In 1900, there was a very terrible hurricane. It is still the greatest natural disaster in the history of the United States, and in one evening, over 6,000 people were killed.
That storm's 20-foot tides wiped out much of the city's architecture, but many buildings survived. Today, a number of stately old mansions are open to the public. And the Strand Historic District's shops and restaurants are a magnet to tourists from all over. But the island's biggest draw is the beach, and the biggest beach party is the Sandcastle competition. 3 hours in and counting, the forms are pulled away and the artists get to work.
Well, you got to think of it like a big block of clay, and you're carving away. You can't add to it. It's building in reverse.
Well, we have everything from brooms to pizza cutters to ice cream scoops to make, we're going to use the brooms to make texture. We're going to use pizza cutters to make lines.
As the characters and designs come to life, beachcombing spectators begin to take notice.
To be able to see what some of these people have done artistically is pretty remarkable.
I would think that they'd have to have some kind of a
lot
structure,
of wood lying around. So.
Some kind of structure underneath all that to keep its shape.
As Curious George emerges from the sand, the team lays out styrofoam molds to create raised lettering, but their other building collapsed.
Exactly 2 years ago, we built the form. It was 18 foot high, and the judges were walking down the aisle judging all the other ones, and right two spaces before they came to ours, it crumbled.
It's a wonder everyone works so hard when they know nature will quickly reclaim their art.
It's just for fun and camaraderie. We just love the challenge and the teamwork.
Pride. We want to beat our competitors really badly, and I think we have a good shot at it.
As time ticks by, the crowd swells to a record of more than 25,000 people.
I had no idea that there's this many in competition, but they're really beautiful.
I just see a lot of talent out here.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Everybody put down your shovels, we're done!
When the carving is done, the final battle for the judges' approval kicks into high gear. There's presentation for the judges and novel approaches to get the most signatures for the People's Choice Award.
Eat more chicken! I'm signing my book!
They're huge.
Yeah.
Huge sand. People think they're going to come over and see a little sandcastle. They're not seeing a sandcastle. They're seeing a car turned upside down, a huge castle.
With no theme for the overall competition, most ideas come from current events and pop culture. Still, it's hard to nail down the inspiration for some sculptures. S-Car Go is a race car snail. Oops, someone made number 2 in the sand. There's a moon pie mooning. And a pancake breakfast that looks good enough to eat.
Who let the dogs out? Please spay and neuter your animal.
Students from Texas A&M University take on the professionals with these towering chess pieces, each a different era of architectural design.
The theme name is What's the Next Move, and the idea is that you can see us moving through time on the chessboard with each individual chess piece.
Judges spend nearly 2 hours reviewing each and every sculpture for craft and creativity and height. The tall tower with the Scooby-Doo theme catches their eye. This team won the top prize last year.
Let's go! Well, this is called Scooby's Doom. That's the theme. There's an altar up front there with Scooby. It's meant to be one of the scenes from the cartoon. Then there's some very tall Mayan ruin thing that looks ominous in the distance. Freddy, Velma, and Daphne have already been captured, and then they're in this boiling cauldron. In the Mystery Machine, driving up in the van will be Shaggy.
We have the abominable Sandman. And he's huge, and he's mean, and he's fierce, and he has just walked through 2 really big sandcastles, and he's destroyed everything in his path.
At the end of a long, hot day, everyone gathers round for the awards, including Best Costume, the bronze and silver shovels, and the grand prize, the top dog of the competition.
The Golden Bucket Award goes to team number 59.
With their second win in a row, these guys will proudly display the golden bucket in their office, earning bragging rights for another year. In the coming days, the wind and water will take the sand back to sea. Until next year, when another tide of creativity washes ashore. Coming up when Things You Have to See to Believe returns. Ready, aim, spit. You'll need a strong stomach to endure Britain's annual dung spitting competition. Later, we'll visit a Filipino pub where short people will fill tall orders. We're back with more Things You Have to See to Believe. Polite, stately, and regal. London, England is home to London Bridge, Buckingham Palace, double-decker buses, changing of the guard, and once a year, the World Dung Spitting Championships.
It just took the world by storm.
Yes, South Africa's latest contribution to sports, Impala dung spitting, has arrived in merry old England.
This is the first annual World Championship dung spitting competition.
For centuries, hunters have hunted game in the African bushland. From rhinos to elephants, to buffalo, to antelopes. But one creature always proved to be particularly elusive: the fleet impala. When chased, it leaves behind a pile of dung in an almost mocking fashion. Frustrated hunters began using the dung in a competition to show the impala exactly what they thought of this gift. Thus began the ancient tradition of dung spitting, which was finally declared an official sport in South Africa in 1994.
This is a very spittable thing. You look at that, it's so spittable.
Event organizer Leon Serfontein and friend Mickey Baker learned of the sport while on safari in South Africa and introduced it to their mates back in London.
We overcame our inhibitions and joined in full-bloodedly.
culminating in the first annual World Championship Games. Contenders feverishly endured weeks of intense training. Substituting cherry pits, which have the same weight and consistency, for the hard-to-come-by Impala Dung.
This has come 9,000 miles all the way from Djuma Game Reserve in South Africa.
When the big day finally arrives, competition for the best dung pellets is almost as fierce as the actual game.
Slightly moist so that it gets a little bit of extra weight.
To achieve proper moistness, contestants often soak their pellets in a liquid shortly before spitting, which explains the competition's convenient location right outside a pub. A pint at the pub may also help disguise the taste of the dung, which is why hardened athletes insist there is no taste.
I think this is mind over waste matter.
Yeah, it was a very new experience and one that I'm not sure I want to repeat.
There's no taste to it at all.
Bitter, sort of, salty.
Once the pellets are selected and soaked, contestants practice their form. Any style of run-up is allowed, as long as the contestant doesn't go beyond the designated marker.
Yeah, you've got to use your body as it's like a whiplash effect.
There's some pretty good spitters here today, from all over.
Well, she's a Zach.
Finally, practice winds down. Excitement rises.
Don't swallow.
Don't swallow and don't chew.
And the games are ready to begin.
Have you got your dung? Each person will get 3 spits. Once you spat, you have to retrieve your own dung. And I wish you all the best. Let's go.
Heads up! Incoming dung!
The distance of the spit is measured according to where the pellet comes to rest, not where it first hits the ground. But many factors can alter the course of a good spit.
I think I was thwarted there on my second attempt by a bit of an oncoming wind in my face.
And even the best trained athlete can be thrown in the heat of competition.
Oh, that is disgusting!
As the game reaches a fever pitch, tension mounts. After an hour of hard spitting, the competition draws to an unprecedented tie between reigning champ Leon and his close friend newcomer Sterling Miller.
This is a crisis. It's the first time ever. We have a photo finish, and it's a sudden death now. It's not even best out of 3, so we're just going to spit now. One dung. It's got to be done. I'm done.
Visibly shaken, Leon goes for some refreshment.
Very best spitter win.
And the best spitter, as well as new world champion, turns out to be newcomer Sterling Miller in a startling upset. And the new king of Impala Dung already knows the first thing he'll do as champion.
I think the first thing I've got to do is get some dental floss.
From a London pub that serves dung with its beer, we travel to a Filipino pub where the beer is served by the world's smallest waiters. Evening falls on downtown Manila. A crowd gathers. People from all over the world sit and wait. Passing time with a little food, some drinks. The reason they're here? Curiosity. Rumor has it this pub is inhabited by hobbits. Welcome to Hobbit House, home of the world's smallest waiters. And although this pub may be short-staffed, it promises to fill your tallest order. So forget the phrase, bigger is better. At the Hobbit House, less is more. So come to Manila for a burger and a beer, but don't overlook the waitstaff. Hobbit House is located in the heart of Manila, a hustling Asian metropolis and home to nearly 2 million people. Every year, thousands of patrons frequent this bizarre bar located in the former red light district. There are curious tourists who can't believe their eyes, expatriates in search of a ribeye steak.
I'm Jim. Nice meeting you.
And the loyal locals who can't get enough of the live music. At the Hobbit House pub, customers can expect to meet celebrated servers like Lorna and Aida, Roger and Maria, and Pidoy, the pint-sized manager. We are accredited with the Department of Tourism, which puts out the Philippine Guidebook. Whenever a foreigner comes here, they will see the Hobbit House in the Philippine Guide. We're known all over the world as the Philippine restaurant that's managed by midgets. When tourists arrive, sometimes by the busload, they're never disappointed.
Great concept. I can't believe I haven't seen it somewhere else before.
The Hobbit House was founded in 1974 by Jim Turner, a transplanted American of Irish descent.
I decided to open a place, and I thought this would be a unique idea, something different.
He thought the gimmick would be a great way to attract customers. His strategy seemed to have worked. Turner named the pub Hobbit House after J.R.R. Tolkien's literary classic, The Hobbit. But the atmosphere takes on a decidedly Irish flavor, from the Guinness beer to the absolutely Irish t-shirts worn by the staff. At the Hobbit House, life isn't all work and no play. In fact, several romances have blossomed on the job. And the Hobbit House family keeps growing larger in numbers, if not in size.
The first time we met, we were always arguing. I didn't like him before. I can't help thinking, well, I'd rather fall in love with a small guy than a tall guy because we're equal. If we box each other, we can be equal with each other.
Aida, who is now 63, first started working at Hobbit House back in 1974.
Well, Ida was one of the first people to come. In fact, I think she was the first female to apply. And initially, we had only men who were coming in. First, she met Roger here. I think that was our first wedding.
Lorna and her husband also met on the job. Today, each of the couples are raising families of their own. For most, it's a dream come true. Something that might never have happened had it not been for the Hobbit House. In fact, when you're a member of the Hobbit House family, being small is reason enough to stand tall. The world is filled with the freakish, the fanciful, and the fantastic. From the reverent in India to the irreverent in England. These are the things you have to see to believe.